Hello and welcome to another episode of Vital Signs, the business of working well. We've all heard about the Great Resignation when employees were leaving their jobs in droves. But what's far more dangerous is what I call the Silent Resignation. This isn't about walking out the door. It's about when executives and leaders who stay in their roles but mentally check out. They're still in the boardroom, still signing off emails, but their focus and energy and engagement are gone. And that quiet disengagement doesn't just hurt the company's performance, it puts their health on the line too. I'm Nicci Robertson, Executive Health Coach, and today I'm joined by Dr. Ashika Pillay to unpack how to spot the silent resignation before it costs your company and your team. Ashika, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Nicci. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. So in your experience as a wellness coach, as somebody who coaches execs and has been doing it for a very long time, what would you say are the first signs when somebody is physically in the room but mentally they've checked out? What do you look for?
So, Nicci, at the end of the day, this is actually about energy. It's about engagement. And what I look for are what I call micro disengagements. So if somebody is in the room physically, but mentally they're not there. And how do we how can we spot this? So what you'll see is that their energy starts to wane. Their way they make decisions starts to change. Their level of compassion and empathy kind of narrows. Curiosity takes a kind of nosedive. And I think very importantly, you can see the shift in them, that they were one way and they have changed how they are showing up now. And why this is important is because, as we know, leaders and managers are the center of the energy of a team.
Right.
So when their energy wanes, it's going to have a ripple effect, not just on their teams, but on the broader organization as well. And in fact, last year's Gallup's Well-Being at Work survey shows that the first, one of the biggest nosedives in engagement is actually managers and senior leaders.
Okay.
And so it's such an important metric for us to get right, because at the end of the day, what it's pointing towards are those three very important signs of burnout, which is cynicism, feeling of emotional distance, fatigue, and also a lack of efficiency or efficacy at work.
So this would affect the organization, obviously, but how does it affect the individual on a physiological, biological level from a health point of view?
Yeah, no, I think, what is hugely important, I'm very passionate and actually recently studied in functional medicine.
Yeah.
And what we're looking at there is really the stress reaction and what that does to your body. So when you have chronically high cortisol level, this affects your entire body. It affects right from the tip of your head to the tip of your toes. And that leads to downstream chronic disease.
Right.
Not only physically, but mentally, mental brain fog. We're hearing that quite a lot these days. And the ability to perform from a physical and from a mental perspective.
Okay, so do you think the resignation comes after the stress and the burnout, or as a result of, or what is it, a chicken and egg situation? What comes first?
I think it's really difficult to kind of point out where the cause is, because I think what happens is you end up in this downstream vicious cycle.
Right.
Firstly, you get that emotional disengagement from work. That leads to stress. That leads to all the actually addictive type behaviors as well, which then potentiates the cycle.
Okay.
So difficult to say where it starts, but I think they definitely work in tandem. And it's important for us to break that circuit and that cycle, for people to step back and look at, what is actually happening.
Okay, so someone who works in organizations with teams, with large teams, with execs, how do you bring in mindfulness into practice in a big organization or a small organization where wellness or mindfulness tools might come across as a bit woo-woo? We're here to work, we've got to look after the bottom line. How do we bring in those soft skills to make sure that we can look after the bottom line?
So, the important thing for me is how do we create a framework, and especially, and I do this in my coaching, how do we create a kind of practical framework for people outside of the practice of mindfulness? The framework that I use is Daniel Siegel's model, the 3 lenses of mindful leadership. And what he talks about is kind of, if you can imagine 3 circles. There's an inner circle, a middle circle, and an outer circle. And that inner circle is self-awareness. It's the ability to tune into ourselves, to become aware of our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors, how we're showing up at work, and how have we been and what has changed. Very importantly is the ability to regulate that. And that's where tools like breath work, like reflection, like journaling, like coaching come in. And very importantly, what that leads to is what I call your personal C-suite.
Okay.
And your personal C-suite is important for personal leadership, for self-leadership. And those 3 items are calmness, curiosity, connection, compassion, courage. I mean, some of these C's, I won't bore you with all of them. But when we work on that inner kind of circle, we're able to regulate ourselves better. The second circle is then other awareness. So how do we manage teams and the people in our immediate other circle? And what we're looking at there is social intelligence. We're looking at, managers and leaders often feel that they're the hamburgers, the burger in the hamburger, so pressed from both sides. And when we are able to manage others better, we're able to develop connection, we're able to create understanding and collaboration. And then, of course, that outer circle, which is, managing the strategy of the organization, the team, etc. So, yeah.
So for somebody watching, and they can relate immediately, and I'm sure there are people who go, wow, that's me. Where do they start? What do they do first to start the coming back into being and looking after their health?
So I think, the first and the most important thing is that first circle that I spoke about.
Awareness.
Awareness. And I think what is missing in many leaders' toolbox is a very simple thing, and that is the ability to get still.
That makes a lot of sense.
The ability to just step back. I mean, I had a coaching session the other day where all I did was ask a client to sit and write for 30 seconds. Right. And suddenly a new perspective comes in. Of course, we have all those regulatory tools like breath work, etc. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
It sounds to me like it's a little bit of introspection. It's asking people to just be self-aware.
Yes.
And that goes a long way, and it's hugely helpful. Dr. Ashika, thank you so much for joining us today on Vital Signs.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So here's the takeaway. Silent resignation is a hidden threat in every organization, and the key is to spot disengagement in yourself and others early and address it systematically. Mindfulness, holistic well-being, and structured executive support aren't just perks. They're essential infrastructure for sustainable leadership. When organizations act proactively, they protect both performance and the people who drive it. That's all we have for you today on this episode of Vital Signs. Join us next time for another dose of insight, strategy, and sanity on Vital Signs and the business of working well. Goodbye.